Recording in progress.
Right. Good morning, everyone. So, no one participate the lecture, so I will do the lecture video and upload into LMS, so you can watch the video and learn about the Dbms. And first of all, I want to tell you, do your project, right? Do your project within this period, and after final, before finish the lecture series, I will take your presentations, right? So let's start today's lesson. Right. Today we are going to talk about the lesson number Right. So today we are going to learn about the transaction processing, right? This is most important thing in when we talk about database management system. You should know the transaction processing, right? So let's move to our first slide. Before that, we have to know about what is this transaction. What is this transaction? So the transaction is a set of logical related operations. It can be set of operation or series of operations or action, whatever the thing we can talk, we can say that is a transaction. It is a logical unit of work. The logical unit of work on a database, right? So it contains a group of tasks, that means a set of tasks, right? A transaction is an action or series of actions. It is performed by the single user to perform operations for accessing the contents of the database, right? I will explain using example. Just think uh, the banking system. You can take the money from one account and you can deposit that money into another account. That is transaction, right? It is update the database. You take the money from my account, that is the deducted transaction. Then after that, I will deposit that one into another one. It is an additional transaction. The same thing happened in the same database. That is transaction. So let's take this example. Suppose an employee of bank transfer 800 rupees from X account to Y account, the small transaction contains several lower level tasks. Just think this is the X account. So first of all, they have to open the account, right? They have to open the account. Then they are all balanced. We take as a balance, X balance. New balance. New balance, they will deduct the 800 rupees from all balance. කලින් තිබ්බ balance එකෙන් 800ක් අඩු කරනවා. Now, their balance will be equal to new balance. දැන් යාගේ X account එකේ balance එක new balance එකට equal වෙනවා. Then they will close the account. Right? Just think about Y account, open account. Then their all balance will be equal to Y balance. යාළඟ දැනට තියෙන balance එක අපිට රුපියල් 200ක් කියලා. ඒක දැන් Y එකේ තියෙන balance එකට සමාන වෙනවා. Now their new balance is all balance plus that 800. අර කලින් අපි X account එකෙන් ගත්ත 800 එක මෙහාට එකතු කරමු. Then Y balance equal new balance, then close account. This is the transaction. There is a transaction between X account and Y account. Right? So, in database management system, we will not write as a open account, close account, read account. No, we are not using that way. There are some operations available. There are some operations available, operations of transactions. So there are mainly two operations. The first one is readx. Readx. We can read whatever the current balance, whatever the current value of that particular account, we can read that one. We take a කියවන්න පුළුවන්. Read operation is used to read the value of X. Right? And write X. Write X means you can rewrite the balance again. ඔයාලට මේකේ අලුත් value එකක් ලියන්න පුළුවන්. Right? And in here, read X. Read X means read value of X from database and stored in a buffer in main memory. They can read value that are stored in a buffer, not in the permanent memory. Whatever the data save in the buffer, they can read. Then write account mean, write X mean, they can write the value into buffer. Into buffer. Right? So, example. Let's take this example, debit transaction. Then first you have to read the value. You have to read the current value. Then you can deduct debit transaction also. You can deduct 500 rupees from the X. Then X is equal new value X minus 500. Then they can write the value. They can write new value. අලුතෙන් හම්බ වෙච්ච value එක database එකට add කරන්න. Right? But it may be possible that because of the failure of hardware, software, or power, right? This transaction will be complete if there are no any failures of hardwares, if there are no failure of softwares and power supply. Then the transaction will be correct. මේ මොකක් හරි error එකක් ආවොත් මේ transaction එක වෙන්නේ නැහැ මගදී abort වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right. So, let's take another example. If in the above transaction, the debit transaction fails after executing operation 2. To solve this problem, we have two important operations. Just think, the above transaction will be lost after operation number 2. That means after deduct 500, it will be stopped. Then to solve this problem, we have important operation. The first one is commit. First one is commit. It is used to save the work done permanently. The commit කියන එක use කරනවා දැන් මගදී කර කර හිටපු දේ permanently save වෙලා තියාගන්න. හරි දැන් 500 අඩු වෙලා තියෙන තැන එනකන් තියාගන්න. හැබැයි ඒක write කරන්නේ නැහැ. save කරන්නේ නැතුව එතනටම වෙලා තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා commit කරගෙන ඉන්නවා. roll back. Roll back mean it is used to undo the work done. Roll back mean it can be undo. current එක ගියාම ටක් ගාලා undo වෙනවා කලින් තිබ්බ process එකට. This kind of important operation we should know. Commit and roll back. Right? This is about transaction. There are two operations, read and write, and there is another operation to solve if there is a current problem, hardware problem, and software problem. There is another two operation. Those are commit and roll back. But also a rollback, right? Right. Now let's move to the transaction property. Transaction property. You know this one, acid property. We talk about this acid property in our first lesson. In our first lesson, we discuss about this acid property. I think you remember. So if you doesn't remember, you can go to first lesson and check whether about this acid property. So the transaction has other four properties. There are four properties. These are used to maintain consistency in a database before and after the transaction. If you are doing transaction, it is help to maintain consistency of the database using this transaction property, acid properties. The first acid property is atomicity. Second one, consistency. Third one, isolation. Fourth one, durability. So atomicity mean kudama කියන එක. Consistency mean අනුකූල. Isolation mean හුදකලා තනියම වැඩ කරනවා. Durability is a කල් පැවැත්ම. Right? These are the four acid property. A for acid, C for consistency, I for isolation, D for durability. Right? Let's discuss these acid properties one by one. The first one, atomicity. I will explain this atomicity in this way. Then you will understand it properly. Right? Right. The first one is atomicity. Right. In here, in atomicity, the entire transaction takes place at once. Right? Or does not happen at all. That means in here, the entire transaction takes places at once. එකපාර සිද්ධ වෙනවා. Or does not happen at all. එහෙම නැත්නම් transaction එක වෙන්නෙම නැහැ. Right? All the transaction will happen at once or does not happen at all. Right? So let's see the example. Just think there are two transactions, T1 and T2. right? Transaction 1 and transaction 2. Transaction 1, read X, right? Read X. Just think X equal 400, Y equal 300, right? Read X. Then the straight transaction, deduct 100 rupees from the X. Then he will write X again. After, in here you can see when they read the when they read the X, when they read the X, it will be 400. 400. After deduct 100 rupees, it will take 300. Then they will write 300 into database. Right? Right. Other transaction, read Y. Read Y. Then they will add that 100 rupees into here to Y and write Y. What is the outputs of in here? They read Y, Y is 300, and they will add 100 to this 300, it is 400, and they will write it as a 400. This is the output, right? In atomicity, in here, all transactions should occur at once. එකපාර වෙනවා. Right? If there are any system failure, it will be aborted. If there are any system failure, the transaction will be aborted, not happen, right? Or the both transaction will be occurred at once. එකපාර සිද්ධ වෙනවා කියලා තමයි මේ atomicity එකේ කියන්නේ. Right? Okay. Now just think like this. Just think something happening here, the power cut or something, right? The power cut or something. Then T2 will not occur. T2 will not occur. Then they will reduce the 100 rupees in here. මෙයාලා රුපියල් 100ක් මෙතනින් අඩු කරලා තියෙන්නේ. If something happen, right? If something happen before Y occur, before Y plus 100 is occur, then the transaction will be abort. Transaction will be abort, right? So then what happened to this 100 rupees? What happened to this 100 rupees? මෙතනින් අඩු වෙලා. හැබැයි transaction එක නැවතිලා. දැන් මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙතන පොඩි 100 rupees වල පොඩි gap එකක් සිද්ධ වෙනවා. Right? So that kind of problem will happen. We will talk about this later. Right? Just remember the atomicity is two transactions are occurred at once. එකපාර සිද්ධ වෙනවා. That is atomicity. Right? Right. Let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next one. It is consistency. C for consistency. Consistency means correctness. Consistency means correctness. Right? In here, integrity constraints. You know these things. Integrity constraints must be maintained. In here, in consistency, integrity constraints must be maintained. Right? Okay. The consistency means correctness. It's happened like this. Right? So there is a X account. It has a total 500. And there is a Y account. It has a total 300. These are the available value. Then the total will be 800. 800. After happening transactions, T1 and T2, right? In here, read X. And X will be deduct 100 rupees and write X. Then the total will be, let's see, what is the total? Read X means 500. They will deduct 100 from here. It is 400. Then output will be 400. Right? In transaction 2, they will read Y here. And the Y, they will add that 100 rupees in here and read that Y. Then let's see the outputs. The Y is 300. After adding 100, it will be 400. Then output will be 400. After transaction, you can see the total is 800. The both totals are same. Correct. The transaction is correct. Right? So amount before and after transaction must be same in the consistency. Consistency means before amount and after the transaction, the amount should be same. That is consistency. Right. Let's move to the next one. That is isolation. That is isolation. Right? In here, isolation, multiple transactions can occur concurrently without leading to inconsistency of database state. Multiple transaction can be occur. Let's say the example, in the banking system, at the same time, ATMs around the country, they can have a transaction. එකම වෙලාවේ ලංකාවේ තියෙන මෙන්න lectures ඇවිල්ලා කට්ටිය. Hello. ඔයාලපොත lectures එනවද?
Yes, ma'am.
කලින් කියන්න එපා. මම දැන් මේ ඔයාලා ඉතලා lecture එක කරලා record කරලා upload කරන්න හැදුවේ. කවද ඉඳන්ද lectures එන්නේ?
No, madam.
දැන් ඔයාලගේ strike එක ඉවරද? ඈ?
ඔව් මැඩම්.
අනේ මට කියන්න එපා පුතේ. මම දැක්කේ නෑ මම නිකම් බලද්දි ඔයාලා ඉන්නවා දැක්කේ. හොඳයිනේ. දැන් මුලින් ඉඳන් හිටියද transaction?
නෑ මැඩම්. නෑ මැඩම්.
හරි. එහෙනම් මෙහෙම කරමු. ඔයාලා ඒ වීඩියෝ ටික දැන් බලන්න මම කරපු ටික. හරිද? මම මෙතන ඉඳලා ඔයාලට කියලා දීගෙන යන්න. මම දැක්කේ නෑ ඔයාලා ඉන්නවා. හොඳයිනේ. ස්ට්‍රයික් එක ඉවරයි නම් හොඳයි. right. හරි. අපි ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවානේ transaction වල properties, asset property එක ගැන කතා කරලා තියෙනවා මීට කලින්. So from here I'm going to explain the isolation. Right? So isolation mean හුදකලා කියන එකනේ isolation කියන්නේ. So isolation mean multiple transaction can occur concurrently. Right? එකම වෙලාවෙදි transaction ගොඩක් එකපාර වෙන්න පුළුවන් isolation. ඔයා එක ATM එකකින් නම් වැඩක් කරනවා මං අනිත් ATM එකේ නම් වැඩක් කරනවා. Likewise, there can be have more transaction at the same time. That is isolation. Right? So these transactions occur independently. May transaction independently වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Transactions occur independently. That means when I deduct some amount from my account, when I deduct some amount from my account, it will not affect your account. මම මගේ account එකෙන් සල්ලි ගත්තාම ඒක ඔයාලගේ account එකට බලපෑමක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So the transactions are happen independently. Right? And changes, whatever the changes occur in one transaction, it will not be visible to others. It will not visible to others. මගේ account එකෙන් සල්ලි ගන්න එක ඔයාලට පේන්නේ නැහැ. Whatever the changes is happen in my account, it will not display to your account. Right? ඔයාලට පේන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So this is isolation. This is isolation. Right? So we can discuss this isolation in this way also. Let's think there is a two transactions T1 and T2. Then me transaction කියන්නේ මොකද්ද කියලා ඔයාලා දන්නවද? ඒ කැලේ ඇහුන්නේ නැහැ නේද? Transaction එකක් කියන්නේ අපි banking system එකක් ගමුකෝ. මගේ account එකෙන් සල්ලි අරගෙන මම ඔයාගේ account එකට දානවා. එතකොට ඒකෙදි වෙන්නේ database එක update වෙන එකක්. මගේ account එකෙන් අඩු වෙලා අනිත් පැත්තේ account එකෙන් වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒතර database එක update වීම. අන්න ඒකට තමයි transaction එකක් කියන්නේ. database එකේ මේ table එකෙන් අරගෙන අනිත් table එකට දානවා. අන්න ඒ වගේ වල තමයි මේ transaction කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? Right. In T1 side, right? In the T1 transaction, they first read X. ඔන්න මෙයා මේ පැත්තේ X read කරනවා කියලා හිතන්න. මේ example එකක් කියලා දෙන්නේ isolations වලට, right? So X equal, just think 500 and Y equal 150. right? So read X. Then they will multiply this X from 100. Then they will write that value in here. Database එකේ ලියන්න. දැන් read database එකෙන් read කරනවා. ඔන්න බලන්න read කරනකොට මෙයාගේ value එක 500. Then they are doing some operation. It is multiplied by 100. No, it is multiplied by 10. Then it will be 5,000. Then they will write that value. It is 5,000. Right? And the same time, the second transaction also read X. දෙවෙනි transaction එකේ කෙනා X එක read කරනවා. Right? Now tell me what is the value of X? What is the value of X? මොකද හිතන්නේ? මෙයා මේක දැන් write කරනවා X වල value එක 5000යි කියලා. ඒ වෙලාවෙම දෙවෙනි පැත්ත එක්කෙනා මේක read කරනවා. කීයක් වේද value එක? Yes? Any idea? Okay. Yes, the same time they read, it will be 5,000. Right? එකම වෙලාවදී ආ read කරොත් මේ පැත්ත 5,000 වෙනවා. Right? So the still T1 transaction is not finished, right? So then they will read Y and they will deduct some value from Y, right? And then write Y. Write Y. Right? So in here, then මෙයා මේ Y කියවනකොට ඒකේ value එක 150යි 150. Then they will deduct some 550 rupees from Y, then it will be 100. Then they will write Y, it is 100. 150ක් තිබ්බා එකෙන් 50ක් ගියාම 100යි. එයා ඒක database එකේ දිනනවා 100යි කියලා. Right? At the same time, the T2 දෙවෙනි එක්කෙනාත් මේ පැත්තේ ලියනවා read Y. Read Y. And they will create a new value X plus Y. Then they write Z. At the same time they read Y. Then Y value is not changed. තාම change වෙලා නැහැ. එකම වෙලාවෙ කියවන්නේ. So it will be 150. 150. Then they will add this in, then 5,150. And they will write it as a 5,050. Now tell me, is this correct? මේක හරිද? මේක හරිද? දැන් මෙයා මේ T1 එක්කෙනා මේකේ transaction එකක් කරලා Y වල අලුත් අගය 100යි කියලා ලියනවා. හැබැයි මේ T2 එක්කෙනා මේක ගන්නෙ නැහැ. එයා ගන්නෙ මේ එකම වෙලාවෙමනේ update වෙන්න කලින්. එයා 150යි කියලා කියනවා. අන්න ඒක තමයි isolation කියලා කියන්නේ. Until finish this T1. Until finish this T1. Until T1 committed the new value are not in T2. මෙයා මේක ඉවර වෙනකන් ඉන්නේ නැතුව මෙයා isolation මෙයා එයාගේ විදිහට ගත්තොත් සමහරලාට transaction වැරදෙනවා. But this is the isolation. This is the isolation. Right? තේරුණාද? Isolation තේරුණාද? මං අනිත් ඒවා දන්නේ නැති ඔයාලා හිටියේ නැහනේ. Isolation කියන්නේ යාලා යාලගේ independent විදියට වැඩ කරනවා. අනිත් කෙනා කරන දේ ගැන එයා දන්නේ නැහැ. They work their own way. Understand?
Yes, madam.
අනිත් අය?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay. That is isolation. Right? So let's move to the next one. ඔයාලා note එක බලන්න පුතේ මට ආයෙ කරන්න බෑ. So durability. Durability. Right? So in durability, once the transaction is committed, the updates and modification to the database are stored in an write disk, and they are preserved even if a system failure occurs. Right? Let's see from let's discuss this from our presentation. You can read all the things available in the presentation. You can check those things, right? Right. Durability. The database should be durable enough to hold all its latest updates, even if the system failure or restarted. System එක fail වුණත්, restart වුණත්, current power cut එකක් වුණත්, මොකක් වුණත්, system එකේ fail එකක් database එකේ update එකකට බලපාන්න බෑ. database එකේ durability එක හොඳට තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Latest updates ඒකේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ. It is durability. It is a one property of database transaction. If a transaction updates a chunk of data in a database and commits, then the database will hold the modified data. Right? Update කරපු data වලට මොනවද වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් the database එකේ ඒක හොඳටම තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Let's take an example. If the banking system is failed, banking system එක අද දවසම fail. මොකක් හරි වෙලා. If something happened to your account, then it will be problem. Database system එකට නෙවෙයි. banking system එකට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණා කියලා database එකට කිසිම දෙයක් වෙන්න බෑ. එතකොට ඔයාලගේ account එකේ තියෙන සල්ලි නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන් නේද? එහෙම දේවල් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So it cannot be. Durability is most important thing. Right? So read those things, right? That is the durability. And the database should be permanent. Permanent memory should be, we have to use permanent memory for our databases. That is the most important. That is the durability. That is about acid property, atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability, right? This is most important thing. Sometimes this will be asked in your exam also, right? Acid property, right? Now let's move to next session. It is a states of transaction. What are the status of our transaction, right? You can study this figure also, or I will explain some another one. I will explain some another figure, right? You can learn that one also. This is also correct, but I will explain how to draw these states of transaction very nice way. කොහොමද මේක ලස්සනට පැහැදිලි කරගෙන අඳින්න කියලා අපි බලමු. Right? So let's see. Right. In the states of transaction, there are few status available. The first one is active state. active state. Then there is another state. It is a partially committed. Partially committed කියන්නේ භාගෙට හරි ගිහින් කියලා. Transaction එක භාගෙට හරි ගිහින්. Partially. කොටසක් හරි ගිහින්. Committed. Committed mean හරියටම හරි ගිහින්. Fully completed. Then the last one is terminated. ඉවර කරනවා. Terminated. Active state, ඒ කියන්නේ active වෙලා දැන් තියෙනවා. Then partially committed mean භාගයක් හරි ගිහින්. Committed mean full complete. And terminate mean transaction එක ඉවර කරනවා. And there is another side also. That is, it can be failed. The transaction can be failed. වරදින්න පුළුවන්. Right? And transaction can be aborted. Aborted. These things are the status of transaction. Right? So let's talk about one by one. First one, active. Active mean in here there can have a series of operations. Series of operations can happen. You can read the values from the account. You can write the value to the account. Likewise, there can have a series of operations. Right? It's like a read and write operation. After these read and write operations can be happen. It can be partially committed, first of all. You can read and write from the database to database, and it will be partially committed. භාගෙට ඉවරයි. Right? So this one is not permanent. In here, it is not permanently saved in the database. It is not permanently saved in the database. හරියටම ගිහින් save වෙලා නැහැ. But they are in a buffer. But they are in the local memory. යාලා local memory එකේ ඉන්නවා. Buffer එකේ ඉන්නවා. They are in the buffer. Permanently main database එකට save වෙලා නැහැ. But they are in the buffer. Right? So that is the partially committed. Then after they can do their other works and permanent state. They are put all the data in the buffer into main memory, then it will be the permanent state. Right? In here, in this time, they should satisfy the acid property. They should satisfy the acid property. Then they will move to the main database. When the Maya was permanent state, they should satisfy our acid property. Transactional acid property. They have to satisfy that acid property and they move to the all the data, all the operations into main memory. Then they can commit it and they can stop their work. Yeah, can terminate it. Right? So this is the successful path. This path is successful. මේ පාත් එක හරිනේ මේ පාත් එකේ හරියට වැඩේ වෙලා successful. The successful path. Or there can be there can be failure also. There can be failures also. Then the transaction will be failed. Right? භාගට වෙලා තියෙන වෙලාවෙත් it can be failed. After partially committed, they can be failed. There can happen the failures. Failures mean like system crash. System crashes can be happen. Power failures can be happen. Power failures can be happen. These kind of things happen in the failure. System crash එකක් හරි, power failure එකක් හරි, නේද, hardware problem එකක් හරි, software problem එකක් හරි, ඒ වගේ මොකක් හරි problem එකක් ආවොත් the active participated will fail and partial committed one also will be failing. Then it will be fail. If it is failed, they should roll back. They should roll back. Roll back means clear the buffer. Roll back වෙනවා කියන්නේ ආපස්සට යනවා කියන්නේ අපි කියනවා undo වෙනවා. Right? That means they can clear the buffer. Buffer එකේ දැන් මේක save වෙන්නේ partially committed දේවා. So they can clear the buffer. Buffer means local memory. They can clear the local memory. They can clear the buffer. Then it will be abort. The transaction will be abort. Then ඔක්කොම ටික ආපස්සට ගියාට පස්සේ transaction will be abort. Abort වෙනවා කියන්නේ keep unchanged. කිසිම වෙනසක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Keep unchanged. වෙනසක් නොවී තියෙනවා. Right? Keep unchanged. Then the transaction will be terminated. Without any changes, the transaction will be terminated. Right? This is abort way. Make a successful way. This is the successful way. And this is the aborted. Right? This is the status of transaction. Right? There are mainly 6 status available in the transaction process. Right? One side can be success, other sides can be abort. Right? In the successful place, there is a partially committed, භාගිත වෙන තැනක් තියෙනවා, and the full committed one. First, they have to partially committed. That means all the read and write operations save in the buffer, right? Then they will save all the data into the main memory, main database. Then it will be committed. Then the transaction will be terminated. On the other side, if there is a system crash or power failure or something, the transaction will be failed, and partially committed also can be failed. Right? Then the transaction will be rollback. Rollback means clear the buffer. Clear the buffer. Then the transaction will be abort. Abort means keep unchanged. Mukut change වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Then the terminator. Right? Those are the status of transaction. This is the status of transaction. Clear? Clear? Yes. Any problem regarding this one? මොනා හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. Any questions? Right, let's move to our presentation. So you can, this one also same, right? This one also same. There are no any terminated part. That's the problem. Others are same, right? There should be a terminate part, right? You can see the picture in the next slide. This display everything, right? Right. So you can read this active, partially committed, failed. These are the status of transaction, right? If you doesn't have any questions, let's move to next part. That is concurrency control. Concurrency control, right? Before know about this concurrency control, you should know what is this concurrency. Concurrency. Concurrency means executing multiple transactions at a time. Right? The database management system can execute more than one transaction at a time. ගොඩාක් transaction එකම වෙලාවෙදි සිදු කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක තමයි මේ concurrency control කියලා කියන්නේ. Why we need this one? Why we need this one? It may affect the transaction result. It is highly important to maintain the order of execution of those transactions, right? If there are more than one transaction, so we have to maintain the order. We have to maintain the order of this transaction. Which one we should be first, which one should be second, which one should be third. Likewise, we have to maintain the order. Several problems can occur when concurrent transactions are executed in an uncontrolled manner. If we cannot control this concurrent transaction, there can be a huge problems. There can have several problems. එකපාර transaction ගොඩක් වෙනකොට ඒක control කරන්නත් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. That's why we use this concurrency control. Concurrency control. Right. I will explain that one using example. Right. What is this concurrency? Right. So, concurrency like this, right? If one person take money from ATM, one person take money from ATM. If there are no any concurrency, that means at the same time, if we cannot do the more transaction, එකපාර අපිට transaction ගොඩාක් කරන්න බැරි නම් මේ අනුරාධපුරේ ඉන්න කෙනා account එකෙන් සල්ලි අරගෙන ඉවර වෙනකම් කොළඹ එක්කෙනාට බලාගෙන ඉන්න වෙනවා. They have to wait. කොළඹ එක්කෙනාට බලාගෙන ඉන්න වෙනවනේ. If there are no any concurrency. But if there is a concurrency, the Anuradhapura person can take money at the same time. At the same time, Colombo person also can take money. එයාටත් ඒක money ගන්න පුළුවන්. Let's take another example. Railway reservation. Railway reservation. Right. You can book your tickets online, right? Using railway reservation system. Right. If there are no any concurrency, මේ concurrency එක නැත්තම් මේ system එකේ එකපාර මෙයාට දැන් කොළඹ එක්කෙනාට ටිකට් ගන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. කැන්ඩි එක්කෙනා අරගෙන ඉවර වෙනකම්. But if there is a concurrency, they can take money at the same. They can book their tickets at the same time. That is concurrency. So In this concurrency, there are advantages. There are some advantages of concurrency. Can you tell some advantages of this concurrency? එකක් කියන්න පුළුවන්ද කාට හරි? එකපාර ගොඩක් transaction කරන්න පුළුවන් එකේ වාසි. Save time, low cost. Very good. They can reduce waiting time. We can reduce waiting time. We can reduce response time. We can reduce response time. Response utilization will be high. Resource utilization. Resource utilization will be high. Efficiency or performance will be high. We can reduce waiting time. We can reduce response time. We can use resource utilization. We can use resources very efficient way. And efficiency performance of the system will be high. That is the advantages of concurrency. Right? Then why we control this? If there are a lot of advantage, why we going to control? Why we concurrency control? Right? So, if there is a lot of transaction at once, if there is a lot of transactions at once, there can have a lot of problems. High risk, yeah, it can be high risk. There can have a lot of problems. But in here, we discuss the three main problems. Three main problems. The first one is lost update. Lost updates. Updates නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අය එකපාර අරහෙනුත් දානවා මෙහෙනුත් දානවා මොකක් හරි වෙලා lost updates lots වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Then uncommitted data. I will explain, right? Uncommitted data. That is a second problem. Third problem, inconsistent retrieval. Inconsistent retrieval can be happen. There can be lost updates. There can be uncommitted data. There can have a inconsistent retrievals. Right? We simply say these are conflicts. අපි මේක මේ විදිහට explain කරන්නේ. We can discuss the conflicts. There are three conflicts, that is write-read, read-write, and write-write. There are three conflicts. Those are related to these lost updates, uncommitted data, and inconsistent retrieval. We discuss these things: write-read, read-write, and write-write conflicts. Right? Let's start from the first one. මෙතනදී අපි කතා කරන්නේ අර conflicts තුන ගැන. එතකොට අර උඩ තුන නිකම්ම කියවෙනවා. ඔන්න බලන්නකෝ. The first one. Reading uncommitted data. That is write, read conflict. Write, read conflict. Right? මේකට තව නමක් කියනවා dirty read. Dirty read. Reading uncommitted data, that is write, read conflicts. It is a dirty read. Dirty read. Right? I will explain using a transaction. Just think there are two transactions, T1 and T2. Right? T1 transaction, just think this is the transaction. මම මේ transaction එකෙන් තමයි උගන්වන්නේ මේ dirty read එක වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා. Right? Right. Just think T1 is reading A. Take A as a 5. A as a 5. Right? Read A. Then the transaction A will be add 1 for this A. එකක් එකතු කරනවා. Then they will write A. Right? They will write A. Then after write A, the T2 transaction read A. And they will committed the transaction. And transaction එක ඉවර කරා. Committed කියන්නේ state එක ඉවරයිනේ. Finish කරා. Then transaction T1 is not committed yet, right? T1 is not committed yet. Then they read B account and write B. But there is a system failure. There is a power failure or something. මොකක් හරි වුණා කියලා හිතන්නකෝ. Then what happened? If there is a system failure or power failure, මොකද transaction එකේ වෙන්නේ? මම දැන් status කියලා දුන්නානේ. What happened? If there is a power failure or system failure, hardware problem, whatever the problem, then what happened? The state of the transaction process. It is not partially committed, not committed. What happened? Yes, it is abort. Aborted. That means roll back. Roll back means මුකුත්ම change වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Then what මොකද වෙන්නේ? Then what happened? Read A. It is 5. And they add 1. It will be 6. And they write into buffer, it is 6. Then T2 transaction read day. Read day means 6. Buffer එකේ තියෙනවනේ දැන් අර write කරලා. And then committed. Then output will be 6. එයා ඉවර වුණානේ committed වුණා. Then they read B and write B. And aborted means roll back. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. මොනවත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Not change anything. All transaction will be changed, failed, and it is unchanged. මොනවත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. බෝඩ්නේ. ඔන්න roll back වෙලා unchanged වෙනවා. Now A value will be 5. In here, this is 6. This is 5. So something happened. Something happened. This is conflict. This is conflict. This side 5 and that side 6, it is conflict. And in here, the problem is in here. Without committed of T1, transaction 1 එක ඉවර වෙන්නේ නැතුව මෙයා A value එක කියවනවා. මෙයා read කරනවා. That's the problem. That's the problem. That is dirty read. වැරදි කියවීම. අරයා ඉවර වෙන්න දෙන්නේ නැතුව මෙයා කියවන්න යනවා. That is dirty read. Without committed of T1, T2 read A value. that is dirty read, and that is the conflict. That is the conflict. ඔන්න ඔය වගේ වැරදීම් වෙන්න පුළුවන් transaction ගොඩක් වෙනකොට. concurrency transactions වෙනකොට ඔය වගේ වැරදීම් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Got it? Got it? That is write read transaction. Write read transaction. තේරුණාද?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Any other?
Madam.
Yes. But remember, if this not aborted, මේක මේ abort වෙන්නේ නැතුව committed වුණා නම්, failures මොනවත් ආවේ නැත්තම්, then this will be okay. The transaction will be okay. මෙතනදී මොනවත්ම power failure එකක්වත් මොනවත් වෙන්නේ නැතුව T1 transaction එක committed වුණා නම් මේකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. It is correct. Right? Right. Let's move to the second one. Second problem. Unrepeatable read. Unrepeatable read, we said write, read, complete. Write, read, sorry, read, write, complete. Read, write, complete. Let's take example. මේක ලස්සනට ඔයාලගේ පොතේ ඇඳ ගන්න. එතකොට පුළුවන්. T1, T2 පටල ගන්න එපා. Read, write, complete. Just think A is equal 10. Right? Right. In here, T1 read A. Right? Next, T2 also read A. Right? Then T1 adds something to TA. Then write A. Yeah, A කියන එක ලියනවා. Then again T2 read A. Then T1 committed. Right? Let's see what happened in here. ඔන්න මේක තමයි example එක. මේ වගේ problem එකක් කියලා දෙන්න. On the read day, they read day, that is 10. In here also T2 read, that is 10. Right? දෙන්නම 10යි. Then T1 add 5 to A, that is 15, and he write it as a 15. On a T1 15 කියලා ලියනවා A වල value එක. Then after T2 read again A. T2 again read A. Now it is 15. Now it is 15. What happened? In here, there is a conflict, confusion. කලින් 10යි ආය තප්පරකින් කියවනකොට ආය 15යි. So T2 have a problem to identify which one is correct. Which one is correct? First A is a correct or second A is a correct? There is a problem. That is unrepeatable read. That is unrepeatable read. There is a read-write conflict. Read කරාට පස්සේ අනිත් transaction එකේ කෙනා එක write කරලා. ඔන්න ප්‍රශ්නය. Read, write, conflict. Right? Repeatable. එකම they repeat වෙනකොට එයාට confusion එකක් එනවා. That is the problem. Right? That is a read write conflict. Got it? පොඩි දේවල් ටිකක් තියෙන්නේ. තේරුණාද? Right? Any problem? You can ask. Do you have any problem regarding that? You can ask. Right. Let's move last conflict. That is lost update. Lost update WW. Read, write conflict. Write conflict. Right? So let's see, there is a two transaction T1 and T2. Right? So our T1 read A, just in A equal 10. And they will add value to A and write. And T2 without reading, just write A as a 60 and committed. And this side also committed. මෙයා මේක read කරන්නේ නැතුව කෙලින්ම 60යි කියලා ලියනවා. ආයෙ read කර ඉන්නේ නැහැ. කෙලින්ම account එකට සල්ලි වඩනවා කියලා එයා දානවා account එක බල ඉන්නේ නැතුව. We say this kind of write blind write. Read කරන්නේ නැතුව without reading they can write values. We say that is blind write. So there is a conflict. In this side A is equal 11 and this side it is 60. Right? Conflict. There is a conflict. Lost update. Update වෙලා නැහැ හරියට. මෙයා මේක read කරේ නැති නිසා. හරියට update එක අරගෙන නැහැ. Lost update. That is write conflict. Write conflict. මෙයාත් write කරනවා අනිත් transaction එකේ කෙනාත් write කරනවා without updated. Right? That is write conflict. Write conflict. Right? Did you understand these things? These three conflicts? මොනහරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. So I explained those things in here also. You can check. Right? මේ කියලා දුන්න example එකම තමයි එතන දාලා තියෙන්නේ. You can check. Right? These are the problems of concurrency. එකපාර transaction ගොඩාක් වෙනකොට වෙන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්න ප්‍රධාන ප්‍රශ්න තුනක්. Main three problems discussed. Right? So if you have any question regarding this, please ask. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. මේ ළමයි ටික එනවා කියලා මම දන්නේ නැහැ කියන්න එපා. group එකේ දාන්න එපා. අපි එනවා lectures කියලා. Right. That's the thing today I am planned to discuss. And did you check that other two videos? I uploaded 2 lessons videos for storage and file structure and indexing and hashing. Did you check those things? ඔයාලා ඒවා බැලුවද? බනින්නේ නෑ බැලුවේ නැත්තම් කියන්නකො බලන්න බැලුවද කියලා. බැලුවද පුතේ?